in your business from rent to service accommodation sourcing. Is it achievable if you're new to the business? Have I actually seen people, actually achieving this? Well, listen, everyone's gone through this. I've gone through this. Every single person in this video that watching this video will tell you this. My final one is you will only understand this if you've run a service accommodation or a short-term let business. If you've clicked this video, you're probably thinking, how do you make £100,000 in your first year as a property sourcer for service accommodation only? Look, you're probably thinking, is it actually achievable? You're probably thinking, have I seen people doing it? Have I personally done it? And it'll be a good story to tell about my journey as well as being a sourcer, coming into a different model in the industry, as well as some of the 2-3 things that I really find sometimes when I speak to a sourcer, they're not doing it right. And in today's video, I want to sit down, go through all of that, understand how many deals do you need. Hopefully you should be able to run through that with you guys, and more importantly, what is going to make you different to be a new sourcer in the industry. Guys, look, there's probably hundreds, thousands of sources around, and you need to make sure you're different. And in this video, I'm going to make sure that you are different and you completely understand how to launch it. As a result of that, get yourself rewarded. Well, if you've clicked this video, you're probably thinking, what if I achieve £100,000 in your business from rent to service accommodation sourcing? Is it achievable if you're new to the business? Have I actually seen people actually achieving this, and personally my journey in sourcing? And look guys, it is easy enough to make £100,000 on your sourcing rent to service accommodation business. And in today's video, I want to really go back into 2018, show you some of my experience, but also more importantly, some of my clients who's now then moved into a lot of different opportunities. And their first deal was done by me, and it was done and sourced by me, but there's certain things I did differently compared to a lot of sources then, and I still truly believe today there's sources out there who are not doing it properly. As a result, they're not achieving the right results for their business. So let's crack on with today's video on how to make your first £100,000 as a property sourcer for just service accommodation business. So listen, I can take you back into 2018 and some of my client journey, like Ethan, his first unit, Stevenage, we went and sourced it, worked with him, and it was amazing to see the opportunity grow for him. Today he's probably sitting around, I think, 6 or 7 units. He's gone into different model of luxury properties now, and really growing. But going back into sitting down and remembering his journey, he had no knowledge. And remember, my job was just to source a property. So as for Kenzie's got a few units. Selena in Peterborough has got amazing. These are people that came to me in 2018 with zero knowledge. They wanted a sourcer to work for them, not someone to give them the knowledge to go and scale the business. Now, in today's video, I really want to understand and talk to you guys about the gap in the market as a sourcer, and why sourcers at the moment are just going about and just finding deals, probably just qualifying it enough, but then not having the experience themselves to run it, then give it to an investor who might not be actually qualified to run the property as a service accommodation, because they might not have the knowledge. So something in today's video I want to share is 3 major tips that's going to help you really be successful in that sourcing side of the business. So here are my 3 major tips. Now, before I actually give you guys those tips, I want to just sit down and really, if you're a sourcer watching this video and you've gone and done your first deal, you're probably thinking, and everyone's gone through the same journey, that you've sourced a deal hoping that the property works. Now, if you've never run a service accommodation business yourself, or an Airbnb arbitrage business, you're probably thinking, well, I've done the numbers, I've done the usual market due diligence, but you're probably thinking, well, I hope that the investor makes it work. Now, I have worked with a lot of sourcers who either have sourced properties for my clients. Now, indirectly, they've been sourced to someone and they don't know how, my clients don't know how to run it, and they come to me to then start working on their bookings. Now, the reality here is, if they were educated and the investor were educated, they would have taken the opportunity, A, to make sure they run the deal properly, and secondly, before they took it, they would be a lot more confident on the unit. So my first tip right now is know your investors. I think one of the things I've found in the industry is, and I speak to some people today and they've gone, oh Piers, I resourced a unit and it didn't work. And my biggest question right now to anyone that, if you're an investor and you've worked with a sourcer is, firstly, do you understand as an investor on how to run a service accommodation business? Now, it's not just getting a unit, put it on Airbnb and booking.com and you get bookings, right? Recently, we've seen an uplift of properties going up probably by even 50% in every single locations in the UK, because it's a buzzword right now in property investing. Everyone is trying to get into service accommodation and short-term rental business. So the first thing is, look, know your investor. Do they understand service accommodation business? Do they really understand how to get bookings? Because one of the things you'll find with knowing an investor is they might not be time rich. Remember, they might be working full-time. That hence the reason why they couldn't find a property themselves, so they've used a sourcer. So there's numbers of things you've got to qualify. So one of the tips I want to give you is have a simple process on qualifying investors, and that is how you're going to understand your investors properly, and as a result of that you're going to be very confident on sourcing the deal. Well, listen, everyone's gone through this. I've gone through this. Every single person in this video, like watching this video, will tell you this, that speaking to an agent, trying to secure that first deal or trying to secure that property can sometimes be an absolute pain. Now, guys, look, everyone who's watching YouTube, they're trying to learn how to get their first deal. Even experienced operators, even I sometimes pick up the phone and want to speak to letting agency. Now, remember, my background is I used to own a estate agency with lettings in it. Now, going back to understanding that process of how letting agency think and how I then communicate as a potential investor and want to know how to secure, want them to understand about the deal, the rental service accommodation model, you really need to understand how to speak to letting agency. If you're a sourcer and you really want to do well, you cannot just pick up a phone, because you will get this. Look, I'll put a challenge right now in this video. If you can pick up the phone 20 times, literally just pick up the phone, speak to different agents in your investment area, you will quickly see there will be hardly anyone actually wanting to engage, or they might just say, look, we don't have any properties. I have found with some processes, and I'm recently doing a research as well as videos on creating a process on speaking to letting agency, because it's not just about picking up that phone call, a property seen on Rightmove, you make that phone call, you've exactly told them, I hear a lot of people put in relocation and their branding, and for me, you're then misleading the letting agency, saying that you're going to be a relocation agency while you put it up for 2-3 nights on Airbnb, right? So yes, there's some little tips and tricks, but actually now I'm coming to a point where if you're sourcing a property, you want to make sure that you're telling letting agency exactly what you're doing, how you're doing, and what results you're going to get, and benefits for letting agency and the landlord. So I think one of the things I found in this process to become a successful sourcer is you've got to be known, liked, and trust. And as a result of that, you'll have a lot more letting agencies work. Now, going back into my journey, and a lot of my investors I've named today, I've gone through a process of securing the first deal, right? Now, owning a letting agency always helped me, but then I used my first client. Like, for example, I always remember Sam from Martin & Co. And I used to always, in Woking, when I did Kenzie's deal, I remember that I took his advice of saying, Piers, you can use my referencing whenever you want. So when I did Selena's deal, I then took that opportunity to email Sam and say, look, I'm about to work with another agent in Peterborough. Would you mind giving us a reference about first deal and all? And that helped building that know, like, and trust process. So if you're going to be a successful sourcer in 2023, you've got to really start focusing on building relationships. Right, my final one is you will only understand this if you've run a service accommodation or a short-term let business. Your deal is only worth if your investor knows how to get booking. Now, as a sourcer, if you can really tell your investor that if they ever have a problem or when they're launching property, with your knowledge, you're going to work with them to launch that property. That after service is worth everything. Now let me go back to 2018 in my journey. When I worked with Selena, Ethan, Kenzie and many other clients, I made sure that I was the one who created the listing. Now bearing in mind, as a sourcer, you're probably thinking, Piers, I don't want to get involved in that. But look, if you're charging someone a £3,000 fee and you're hoping that unit works, you've got to be confident enough to know how to create, and launch properties on all the platforms out there, because the quicker you get your client results, the quicker you're going to grow. Now, this is my biggest tip for any sourcer right now, is do not just source property, because what you're doing is you're giving it to an investor who's got no knowledge potentially, or you might be giving it to someone who's already got some units. You've got to understand, like I said earlier, understand the investor, but you've got to make sure that you know how to launch properties. Once you do that, and once you've achieved several results for clients, you will have amazing referencing through your existing clients, right? Because you should be able to just say, look, let's launch this property. This is the source property. I'm gonna, you set up, I'm gonna come back and launch the property when you're ready. Just giving that trust to your investor that 99%, I can tell you today, 99% of sourcers don't, is gonna put you ahead of every single one in the industry. And look, there's, again, for you, if you're new to sourcing, you need to understand that. You need to understand how to get bookings in GrowYourBnb. That's exactly what we do. But let's have a chat. If you've got a client that needs to get the first unit and you want them to launch property, give us a shout, and we can launch property with you and your client and get you those bookings that you deserve. As a result of that, you will then have more trustable part in your business. Well, it's an interesting topic right now, right? Because every video you probably watch on YouTube right now is going, oh, here you go, let's go and make yourself £100,000 in your first year operating as whatever property business or agency business, or how to make money online. But reality is, look, this can be achieved. Now, if you look at an easy breakdown of what you need to do in terms of charging a sourcing fee, and at the moment in the UK's average, a rent to service accommodation sourcing is certainly sitting around £2,500 to even £3,000, and I know some sources charge more than that, depending obviously on the type of deal. And if you're charging £3,000, how many units do you need to actually source? If that's something that you do full time, you don't need to source a lot of properties. Probably sit around, if you source any, probably about 3, that's 9,000. That's simple. If you look at maths that way, it's very easy to look at, and working closely with that 3 investors, you need to then offer that end service. Look, I'm always a big fan of someone doing something extra in the market, and I used to make sure I do that for all my clients. I used to tell them, look, the £3,000 that you're going to invest, not only finding the property deal for you, I am going to sit down and launch property with you. That just made the whole process for my investor a lot trustworthy. The second thing I want to give you as a tip actually is, look, go and get yourself a Trustpilot review form, because at the end of the day, if you want to be in sourcing business for long term, it could, or short term actually, like I did when I wanted to get into sourcing, I wanted to make sure that all my clients enjoyed it. And as a result of that, you need to make sure that you get good Trustpilot reviews. What is it going to help you with is your further investors who's going to come and work with you. But not only that, you need to make sure you treat it as a business. A lot of source I see who obviously goes into Facebook and source a deal, they do not have anything proven at the back end. Recently, I got someone saying, Piers, I actually wanted to get, probably took 2 weeks to come and work with me at GrowYourBnb, and he said, look, I Facebooked your name and I couldn't find any fault about GrowYourBnb at all, even if we tried. And one thing I say is, look, go to Service Accommodation Network group, type in my name, Piers B.K, and you'll see all the posts from 2018, 2019 till date of my celebration with clients and how we've got them big bookings. And that's what you want to do, is make sure you are very trustable in the industry. And I want to make sure that 20 years later, I've always said to you in probably in loads of videos I've worked with, I want to enjoy that. I want to sit down and look back and look at the changes that we've made in the industry. So guys, I hope this gives you kind of a different insight on how to make your £100,000 as a property sourcer for short lets and service accommodation. I hope the tips I've given you, that's something that you will go and actually implement that in your business. And look, if you've got any questions regarding sourcing, please comment down below. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe and share, and I'll be back with another video soon.